Welcome to the Art and Science of Complex Sales, proudly presented by Membrane. This podcast is your gateway to mastering the craft of modern selling. If you're passionate about growth, impact, and unlocking full potential in sales and revenue, you're in the right place. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And now let's get started with today's guest. Hey, today we are talking with Adam Boyd, a consummate professional, a true coach, someone who truly invests in others and tries to make it happen for people in sales and revenue and leadership. And so he is CEO of the Northwood Group. Awesome, dude. Can't wait for the conversation. Come join us because this is a genuine discussion. We dive into a lot of personal stuff. We dive into his journey in sales and how he's helping people now. So listen up and let's get started with the Art and Science of Complex Sales. Adam, welcome to the Art and Science of Complex Sales. How are you?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me.
And I got to tell you, I already feel like we're old friends. We've been chatting probably for about 15, 18 minutes in the, let's call it the green room. And it's fantastic. I love the work you're doing.
Well, no, I appreciate it. And I think the comfort comes when you get to know people away from the veneer of what you see online. Mm-hmm. And you realize, oh, this is a real person. I had the privilege a couple of years ago of meeting a guy named Alex Newman, and I had seen Alex online, and he's so sharp. And if I'm being really honest, I was probably like, oh man, this guy's like, I can't keep up with this guy. And we got to meet in Mexico at a conference and became buddies. And I'm actually like referring him a piece of business today. But it was just once you get to in a conversation with somebody, that's really cool. And I think the power of LinkedIn is it can sort of be a great social event where you meet people and develop some relationships. So I'm glad it's facilitated that.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. I got to tell you, the same experience with you. By the way, if those of you that haven't checked out Adam's stuff on LinkedIn, make sure that you're following him. He's fantastic. He gets some great stuff out there, and it's sales and leadership and his personal journey. And it really is awesome stuff. I love interacting with it. And
thank you.
But I had a really similar experience with that with a guy named Mark Hunter, like this guy that I followed for years.
Oh, he's the man.
And then I met him. Oh yeah, he's sharp as all get out. And then I met him, and he's just this most gracious, kind person, right? It's like it's just real and wonderful. So anyhow, let's dive into you because that's what this is about. I really want to dive into you, and one of the questions that I ask a lot of people on this, since it is the art and science of complex sales, is let's start at the beginning, and we're going to do two things. We're going to define sales, and then we're going to learn about you in sales and leadership, marketing, and your journey. So. Let's start at the beginning.
Well, you want to define sales. I feel like that's such an easy answer. And then when you ask it, it's sort of like asking somebody to define love. And when you're put on the spot, you're like, what is it? Mm-hmm. If you ask me and I'm not very introspective, I'd say it's getting paid for delivering goods or services people want. Mm-hmm. And what that can mean, like you can open the aperture up and that can mean so much. But at the end of the day, I think selling is the ability to have a fair exchange of value relative to what you're delivering. And I have a lot of thoughts on what makes it different now than how it used to be, what challenges people are facing in that, how they overthink it, how they underthink it. But in some ways, we're all selling. And I was talking to a guy I'd met off LinkedIn. I was in Toronto, and we got together and had dinner. And he said, everybody's selling all the time. If they're trying to meet with you, they're selling something. And there's that level of selling. But there's really, at the end of the day, a lot of the people listening to this, the executives, the individual contributors, the founders, they're trying to find out, the consultants, how do we improve this game of selling where we've got a good product or service we believe in and we get paid fairly for that, right? So that's not the most mind-blowing description of it, but it's probably the one that I would start with.
You got to start somewhere, and I love it because
Yeah.
it sets a baseline, and then you can start to dive into. You said the word aperture. That's awesome and introspective. You're using two big words there, but diving in and being like, you can start to talk then about the skills and the different things and the different levels and what the
Right.
different components are. One of the things you really said there to me, which is interesting, and when you hear somebody say this, everybody's selling all the time. There's almost a connotation. There's either a negative connotation or a greedy connotation that aligns with that. And I,
Yeah.
when I hear that, I react and disagree with both of those connotations. I
That's a good
agree
word.
with the feeling of it because we're trying to relate, we're trying to connect, we're trying to provide value at all times, right? When we're doing it,
Yeah.
and we should be. That is a natural thing that we should be doing for others. But I don't know. What do you think about that reaction?
I I had this thought years ago about capitalism, and I wrote an article about it, and I don't know that I wrote it well, but I I talked about why capitalism is so good and where sales plays a role in there, because somebody has to go out there and they've got to get something going. And the exchange of value is a good thing. And I think there are people who, um, one, sometimes people who come from faith backgrounds have a hard time accepting um, some of the values of the commercial world. Like, hey, I can get paid really well for this. I also think that there's another group of people who feel like the desire to get paid well, they shame those some people for feeling that. And then there's another world where it's only about money to the detriment of anything else that's meaningful, like relationships and quality work. Um, so that's something everybody, I believe, has to work out on their own. And it's one of the reasons when you think about sales management or executives trying to build sales teams, they struggle because they're trying to figure out with their team what's the magic comp or motivation. And the truth, it's pretty individual for everybody, and you've got to find out what it is. And I got asked by the president of a pretty large manufacturer last week. He was having some underperformance, and he's like, I think it's the territory plan and the comp. And I said, I don't know that it is. Right? Do you have the right person? Are they motivated? Do they care about what you're offering them? Speaking of the compensation, I was talking to a founder. We'll have a lot of conversations with founders who are like, I'm going to hire a sales guy and I'm going to pay him really well. And maybe I'll give him equity. And I'm like, hey, you're going to value things that the people who work for you do not value. And you've got to think through that. So this may not go into sales. I do work with a lot of salespeople, though. And there is this concept that a lot of them are greedy. And I bet I touch several hundred salespeople a year, right? In some way, shape, or form. I'm in a conversation, we're coaching, we're doing a training session. I don't see many people who are greedy. I see a lot of people who are scared. And that's not like salespeople. I think it's just people, right? And the thing with the sales team is they feel like they're walking across a tightrope without a net very often, no matter what it is, right? I think more people are scared than they are greedy. They're worried they're not going to close business. They're not going to hit their number. They're worried, I'm going to be let go. I'm going to be reworked out of here. And that, I believe, drives more people. There are also fears like, I'm going to let down my family. I'm not going to achieve things in life. I think that drives more people than greed, at least in the organizations I've worked in. And I've had the pleasure of working with quite a few over the last 20 years.
Man, you're so on point. The reason I ask that question to people is because I had to work real hard at it to align myself with selling and to align what I thought selling was. And mine is service, leadership,
Yeah.
and the concept of wayfinding, right? And
Yeah.
then that all comes together for the exchange of value. But people are selling for validation, like validation of their boss,
Yeah.
validation of their family, and validation is generally driven by fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of the opposite, where people really become fulfilled in sales,
Yeah. Yeah.
is when they're selling for impact, and you find
Right.
those people. They are there. There's a lot of them that lead their teams that way.
Well, so some of the best leaders I've seen in the world of sales, they are heavily invested in the success of their team. And they're trying to change these people's lives through the mechanism of sales because there are a lot
Mhm.
of opportunities that it can create. There's a lot of freedom sales can create in terms of time. But the best leaders I've seen are they're trying to make an impact. And I've seen salespeople who are just competitive, salespeople who are just hungry, salespeople who are just curious, salespeople who just like they think it's fun. I'm probably a bit of a masochist in that I'm selling like some people play golf. I'm like just waiting for that one really good call. I'm like, that's
Yeah,
it. And that's
the
what keeps me
swing,
going,
the
even through all the
swing.
bad calls are. We're growing our team and one of our associates, she'll be on the call and I'll be like, that was a really bad call. And she'll say, oh, it was great. I was like, no, I missed this, and this. I didn't do these things. I didn't listen well. I should ask this question.
Mhm.
But that kind of keeps me going. And it may actually have me in sales too. I mean, I think when you're running a company, you are always going to be in sales in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And it may keep me in it too long, just the desire to get better at it. So
Yeah, I'm that one swing golfer. I'm that that's like, oh my gosh, that felt so good, and then I
yeah,
have to wonder again and again. I don't play enough that I can figure out how I get to that one swing. I do sell enough,
yeah.
that so I'm that same way, and I love that. I love that ability to go and dive in. Tell me a little bit about your journey. Like how did you get into sales and
Sure.
leadership
Yeah,
and start your company? I'm really
yeah.
gonna
Well,
dive in.
I want to touch on this, and I'm going to come to that.
Okay.
It's kind of what my kids do. They don't answer my question. They talk about what they want to talk about. So when it comes to sales, and I would love for anybody listening to this is something to think about. I did a day of training in Austin yesterday. I did a day of training with a different group in Houston, and I had the privilege of working with a guy years ago named Casey. Casey had sought me out to do some coaching for him. He's a great story. He's one of my dearest friends in the world now. He's like a brother to me, but I coached him for a while. And when we would, I was in a different company and we would sell these training packages and I'd say, hey, just call me when you need me. And no one ever called, right? You just kind of say, hey, just call me when you need me. And I think we'd write in our agreements reasonable calls for help. This guy called me 3 to 5 times a week. He's like, I'm paying for it. I might as well get the help. And he really took off. And then I connected him with a client and said, hey, go work for them. And then I went and ran that company's sales department. He reported to me. And then we actually started something together. Great friend, really dear guy. And then he finally said, I need to prove that I can do software sales. It was this thing that he had to do. Long story short, he's never sold software. He's like mid to late 30s. He gets in it and they give him like the worst product to sell. 8 months, he's number one in that company selling that product. Then they give him a team of like 9. He turns them profitable and they hit their number for the first time ever. Then they give him a team of 18, a team of 40. And he will work with these people, his team, and he gets them performing because he says, you have to understand, this is your craft. This isn't a job. This is something you have to commit to getting really good at. And he may listen to this, and I hate saying this. He's better than I am now. I mean, his intellect, he's smarter than I am. He's got a higher emotional intelligence than I do. He's got a higher awareness. I can see things and put them together and give something like that where that guy becomes better.
Mhm.
But the idea is that in selling, just like anything else, it has to truly be a craft. And
Yeah.
the best performers I see, they are trying to get better. And when we work with people, we try to say, look, we're trying to give you tools that if you will get your ego out of the way and you'll adopt this will make you better at what you do. You'll have better conversations, you'll have better relationships, you'll go deeper, you'll go wider. So my story,
That's
if you want to
awesome.
hear,
I
I
do.
I probably should have been an academic, and it did not happen. Went to I got out of school and I started teaching and coaching. I taught high school English and I coached football in Texas and didn't really know what was going to happen. I thought I was going to go to law school and I kind of wandered for a while. I did some writing. You and I can talk about that offline. there's a little writing project I did and bartended. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I found this little, very unique business school in Texas. It was the only one I applied to. I was either going to go to business school, I was going to try to get into like the School of Foreign Service in DC, or I was going to go to seminary. And I got into this business school because they made three promises. You're going to learn how to learn, you're going to learn how to make money, and you're going to learn how to live a life of meaning. And all three of those things really connected to me, especially because I was in my mid-20s and broke. And they worked my tail off. You know, we were doing 100 hours a week. I would sleep about 4 or 5 hours a night. I remember I was trying to think about what I was going to do next. And a guy came and did some presentations on how to think about selling. He was a successful entrepreneur, built and sold a company, now did some consulting. And he was an early-ish partner of OMG. And you've had a lot of those on here, a guy named Carl Scheibel. And I didn't know what Carl did, I'm going to be honest. But I said, I think I can maybe go work for that guy. And with an MBA, I went and said, hey, can I just learn from you? I don't know what this means. I'll just empty your trash. I thought, I need to learn something this guy knows. I didn't really have some sense that this was my direction in life, but I thought I can kick the can down the road on finding my next gig. And he said, I'll pay you to fill these events, and, I'll pay you $100 for everybody you put in an event. I'll pay you $15 an hour to make cold calls and pay you 10% of whatever we close. That's how we got started. I thought I'd be there 3 months. It turned into 9 years.
Wow.
And, I looked at some other things along the way, but then I kind of just, there was some fear at one point, and then I just kind of held on to it and wanted to get good at it. And honestly, I'll be honest, there are a lot of times there was a deal that I thought was going to close, and that kept me sticking around for another 3 months or 6 months. And then we had a bunch of kids along the way. We got 4 now. So I just stuck in it, and I'm kind of a masochist. Like, I try to do really hard things. So I stayed there, and I learned a lot, and I developed a relationship with Dave Curlin, who you've had on here, and Dave has mentored me some over the years. And that's how I got there. I eventually said, I need to do something else, and I wanted to buy a business, and I ended up working for one of my clients. And I referenced this earlier when I sent Casey to go work for this company, and I had the opportunity to report to a board of a private equity-backed company, and we were more lucky than good, but we got a good business. We were more lucky than good, and we sold that. And then I was like, I still want to find a business to buy, but I got back into consulting to kind of tie things together while I looked for a business to buy. And I had done enough of this and knew enough people that business would come. And then there are a couple of things I'm pretty good at. And so we just started building this business back up, and I kept looking for a business to buy. I thought it'd be something like a fencing business, a trenching business, something really simple in theory, until you have one of those guys on here and they tell you how hard it is. I just didn't want to do something like software where I'd have to go raise a bunch of money. And last year, this is actually a different type of story, but a deal landed on my lap to buy another training business. And I thought, training business. And people would say, buy a sales training business. I'm like, I got to buy the owner. I don't want to buy a sales training business. But it was a management training business. And they taught leadership to frontline leaders. And the guy had built a really good business. And so I ended up buying that. And I've been trying to figure out how not to break either one of these for the last 6 months. But that's a little bit of my story. We're adding people to our team with Northwood to do more of the training and the consulting. But I'm in this place where I don't have it all figured out, but we're growing both of these, and we're really excited about what we can do for organizations.
So you have a awesome background then in both leadership and sales, and in tying them together. So what is your philosophy then on how those are connected? How those are connected?
I kind of thought you might ask about that, and I took some notes. When I think about this, and I don't have some beautiful analogy here, but I think that in both scenarios, if you're going to lead, and you're going to sell, you have to have a clear objective. I was working with some managers this morning, and I said, when your salespeople have a sales call, you need to ask them what their objective is. And they'll say, well, the objective is to close the deal. And I'm like, well, And most opportunities, you don't close on the first call.
Mm-hmm.
And your goal is to close the deal. Your goal is to win a customer, but your objective is, you think about membrane, you need to hit certain milestones. That's really what you need to do, right? So you used to coach swimming. And you just think about, hey, look, if I'm swimming at 400 IM, my objective in the first part is like, I need to start out really strong with my butterfly. And I need to make sure that I'm within a certain distance when it gets to breaststroke so that I make sure I have a chance to overtake this guy because I'm a strong breaststroker. We need to think more about objectives rather than just the end goal, which is win, because like the objectives keeps us focused. So in leadership, you got to really know, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to achieve? In our company, we're trying to roll out some new content. Well, all right, what's our objective in that? How are we going to do that? How do we create a great product that our customers want to engage in? And then I think alignment is really important. So if I'm selling to you, our interests have to be aligned. And if you and I are on a team, if you're my manager, you've got to align our interests. So there's we've got a clear objective. We have to have alignment. And if you're my manager, I need to think in some way, shape, or form, you care about what happens to me. And one of the biggest mistakes I see managers make is they don't know what motivates their people. They don't bother to ask. And it's one of the biggest, just grievances that I have is like, hey, these people work for you. You haven't taken the time to find out what they're trying to achieve. Mm-hmm. You just assume they want what you want and they're going to do what you do. So clear objective, true alignment. And I think we need to be other focused, whether we're leading or selling. Now, when I say other focused, if I'm selling, that doesn't mean that you get all the discounts you want and I'm going to go rework the product and, I've only got it in green but you want it in blue. But I do need to know what matters to you. And I got to show that I care and I got to build a relationship and I got to find out what matters to you. And I need to ask about everything, even if it makes you a little uncomfortable. And then I think as a leader and as a seller, you need to know yourself. So there are things I am not good at. There are things where I'm going to get in the way. There are types of engagements where I'm not going to do a good job. There are types of sales where I need to know, hey, I'm going to talk too much. I'm going to talk about the wrong thing. I've got weaknesses I need to manage. And if I'm going to lead a team, because we're building our teams, I'm looking for things where I know where I'm weak. I had to call one of our team members today. I was like, I had said something. I was tired. I was frustrated. And I said something that was hurtful to her. And I called, I was like, hey, I need you to forgive me. That was not how I feel about you. It's not true. So I really need to know myself and know how to manage that. And I think ultimately selling and leadership, communication is a big piece. We've got to communicate, and I've got to communicate to you, which means I probably need to listen more than I'm talking now. And as a leader, I need to spend a lot of time understanding, hey, what's going on with the team? Where are we trying to go? It's not all command and control. So for those taking notes, it's clear objective, alignment, other focus, knowing yourself, and communication. That's how I would see that these two kind of come together.
Great stuff. And those taking notes, take those notes. And if you're in sales and leadership, put them, give yourself a note card and put them up. Because diving down into that, what does a good sales methodology do? Well, it allows you to be essentially proud of what you're doing. It allows you to set objectives with people that are clear and concise, and then understand their objectives, right?
Yeah.
If you don't start with that clarity,
right. Yeah.
There's no negotiation of meaning that can happen because you don't know where they're starting from and you don't know where you're starting from. So that is the first thing in both is, and I think sometimes we undersell that as sales leaders and sales managers. We say, what's your agenda? What's the agenda for this meeting? When the truth is, it's like we need to set baselines, team, where you're going to communicate, what you're communicating, and what is best for them and what is best for, like, if we don't set those objectives, we miss a whole lot from there. And so I love that take.
We was working with a software company yesterday, and um, and by the way, across industries, the challenges in selling are generally the same. I think there's this misunderstanding that with all this technology out there now, that everything's easier, everyone's more sophisticated. If anything, they're having a harder time learning how to use the tools and still focus on skills. And we're
Yep.
working with this group, and they have all these things that happen. They're selling 7-figure deals. There are all these challenges they run into along the way in their sales process. Not getting access, getting ghosted, people trying to silo them, not being able to build a baseline for how to increase like the value, monetized value to the organization. And we created a list. We said, hey, how do you have a conversation with a prospect in the first meeting to say, hey, look, when we work with organizations and we're going to have any success at all, these things don't help either of us. Can we talk about this so that, because like if we're going to get far, you're going to have to trust me enough to get other people involved. And to say things like, hey, we can't go a month between meetings. Now, this may not be important enough for you to meet with me, but I'm just telling you, if we're going to make an impact on your organization, and maybe you don't want to work with us, but if we are, we can't go a month between meetings. And it was sort of as if this group was like, I can say that. It's like, yeah, you're absolutely allowed to say it. Now, say it warmly, be professional. But most people, if they're serious about finding out if they can work with you, they'll agree to the majority of this. But it comes down to communication, right?
Again,
I
we're on
wouldn't
the
say
same
do it with your
wavelength.
wife.
No,
I
we're
wouldn't say
on
do
the
it with your
same-
wife, but
Yes, don't do it there. But we're on the same wavelength because we. It was funny. I was. This is about 6 months ago. Was training somebody, and that was the conversation. It was essentially, I keep getting ghosted, and to set the expectation at the beginning of it was, hey, Mr. Customer, I am happy to spend this hour with you. Like, let me give you some of the things that, here's our objectives. I want to learn your objectives, but a couple of things like I would really appreciate, right? Like,
yeah,
if we're not a fit, I'll tell you if we're not a
yeah,
fit. But if you don't
yeah.
think
But
we're a
just
fit,
tell
just
us.
tell
Yeah,
me. Just tell me.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and can we agree if we're working on this that you won't ghost me completely?
Right.
Even a thumbs up on a text is good, but can we
Yeah,
agree on that? And it was amazing the difference that made. Like amazing.
absolutely.
Just
Because
because it
it,
setting expectations.
it doesn't eliminate it all time for everybody, but the majority of people, like if there's you've probably read Atomic Habits by James Clear, and he talks about the aggregation of marginal gains, what Dave Brailsford did with the UK, the British cycling team. And it's like,
Mhm.
can we get a little bit better? And so if we can just get 5% fewer people ghosting you, it starts to add up. If you get 5% more giving you access, if you get 5% more giving you timelines, it all just adds up. So,
Yeah.
that, by the way, I want to plug you guys because I love your tool. What you guys are able to do for organizations who are truly committed to getting really good data, the quality of insight you can get into a pipeline if you're truly committed to using a tool like Membrane. Everybody's like, oh, we quantify and we score our deals. And I'm like, if you were scoring your deals, you would be able to give me better information than you really are.
Yeah.
Right. But what you guys are able to do is really, really special. And for the sales leaders in the organizations that really want to use it. You asked about my story, and this isn't the kind of information that is going to blow anybody's mind when they're looking at strategy. I mean, you've had such strong people on here. You've had like Scott Leese and like Dave Curlin and some of these guys. These are guys I really respect and learn from. But this is, I think, for my story, for anybody listening, this may be helpful. I think one of the big things that I had to go through is, and people say they have this and they understand it. Maybe they do, and I'm just a slow learner. But I really wrestled with kind of compare and compete.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about like competing to be better than I was, but personally, one of the things that was a really big part of my story is I would look at other guys and gals out there and I'd say, this is where they are. I should be there in terms of career or what I've achieved. And I had a lot of guilt about that. And we're not going too far into therapy, so no one get too worried. But what I would look at is I work with a lot of these guys who are VPs or CROs at PE-backed companies. And I would think, man, wow, that's really cool. And then I realized I don't want to do that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I have zero interest to be on an earnings call or to be presenting to a board and be on a plane all the time. But I really wrestled with feeling like, this is not, I was feeling like, I've really failed. And one of the things I had to come to terms with, like my story versus Paul's or Dave's or, Alan Versteeg or, some of these people that you guys have had on, like Larry Levine or Mark Hunter or, the founder of your company. And I was looking at those guys and gals and saying, I'm a failure because I'm not where they are. I haven't done what they did. And for anybody listening, hopefully this is helpful to someone. I just had to say, well, what game am I playing and what's my story? Because I don't want to trade away my wife and my kids and where we live and our friends and our community and what we're trying to do. And frankly, I did not find the business I wanted to buy that I thought I wanted. And then I got something that has been a perfect fit for me that I've been really excited about. I get to work with a great team. And that's part of my story. But I had to make peace with that because I was trying to live someone else's, but it wasn't me, right? So if that helps anybody, I think that's been a big piece of my story. Like I tell you about Casey, who is leading a pretty large team in a large software company. I love Casey. I'm not living his story, and frankly, I don't want to. So for me to compete with him or to compare myself to him, it's the wrong game. So I don't know. Maybe that helps.
Well, I think that probably one of the more helpful things ever said on this podcast. So I just, I'm not comparing or competing, but I just, being raw and being open. And I myself, it's the same thing. Right. And I think I told you this earlier. It's I get on here and I get to interview people that I'm a CRO of a software company. But you get on here and you get to interview people that it looks like they've made it. Right. And in fact, many of them have. They've had amazing careers, and they're absolutely the top of their game.
Yeah,
and that is a great realization to say, I don't need to be at the top of their game. I just need to be at the top of mine. That's all I'm ever meant to be, right? And then you can talk stories and have fun with it. It's not you're comparing. And when I think about selling too, it's that is a big thing. Like you have to sell to a CEO, right?
Yeah.
But you can sell to a CEO and be completely comfortable in your skin as an SDR.
Yeah.
Like 100% comfortable in your skin as an SDR. Yeah. And in what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish and why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't imagine the difference. Well, you do. You know it every day. But people listen.
I was terrible. I was so scared.
Yeah.
I was so scared. I was so scared. I was working with, again, this younger group yesterday. I worked with the SEs in the afternoon and the younger ones in the morning. And we were role playing. Like, I can't say that. I said, why not? Just relax. Just go have a conversation. But I've been there where they are, and I felt what they felt. And it's kind of like, they're going to get there. So,
no, thank you so much, man, for sharing that.
I hope somebody got something from
this.
That's
fantastic. Well, hey, you know what? I love it, and I love your work. I love working with you. I think and really appreciate this. I'd love to have you back on as well. Let's connect.
Let's do it. I'll give you guys some of the strategery stuff that we talk to folks about. We can have some fun with that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Let's do it. So sooner rather than later, let's dive into strategery and how and issues in sales and all of that things. But I think today it's more than enough, man. We had a great conversation, and you bring a ton of value wherever you go. So I truly appreciate it.
I appreciate it. It's great being with you. Thanks so much.
All right. Hey, how do people connect with you, by the way?
Well, I guess you can go on LinkedIn and what's his name? Reed Hastings. Does he own that, or is it Reed Hoffman? I always get those wrong. Two. One of those guys owns Netflix. The other one owns LinkedIn. The Adam P. Boyd on LinkedIn. You can email me, adam@thenorthwoodgrp.com. Hell, you can call me, 512-293-6497. I will answer. Please, I don't answer after like 9 o'clock at night, but I'll pick up the phone if you want to talk.
All right.
So
Your Central Time, right?
I am Central Time. So keep that in mind, you West Coasters.
Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. All right. Well, hey, Adam, thank you so much for being on. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Everybody keep shining bright. Have an amazing day. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll shut it down this time in the Art and Science of Complex Sales.